The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy. You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Crime News Talk. Today is September 24th, 2025. We are live to tape on episode 879. And today, anti-ice shootings. Signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy, Basil, and you are not crazy.
And my name is Gonz, at Face Like the Sun, director of the Age of Deceit films, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, live to tape from the metaverse to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. Today is Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday.
My dudes.
It is. Oh, wow. Look at that. Good live spinning there. Yeah, it is Wednesday. We made it through Tuesday. And Gonz, I got to say, I don't know. We mentioned it, but I don't know if I fully comprehended how serious some people were taking the Rapture September 23rd thing. I think there's something that comes with being a Christian in America, specifically in a tradition that is very focused on end times, prophecy for 30-something years, but also being in like weird fringe Christian podcasting for 14 years. Like the date setting Rapture hype kind of just comes in one year and out the other. And I had no idea that there was such a large amount of people who were locked in on this one. Did you?
Actually, yes, because I remember September 23rd, 2025, the date being discussed about 10 years ago. It was like 2015, 2016. People were looking at the blood moons. And of course, I know the date was coming up. Now, I didn't think that it was going to actually happen. I'm happy to invite the Rapture at any point, of course. But and it's fascinating to look at because Rapture talk is really like TikTok, but Rapture talk is really where a lot of this is proliferated quite a bit. And AP even carried an article, a doomsday prediction about the Rapture is spreading on TikTok. And it's all about the September 23rd or 24th. So we still got it. We still have a chance today, Basil, getting caught up. But according to the AP article, it was a South African pastor named Joshua Malakela who claimed that the Rapture would be on September 23rd through the 24th in 2025. I don't know when he made this prediction, but of course the Bible states no one knows the day or hour. But everybody was capitalizing on it, whether people believed it was going to happen or not. I mean, we had just in my personal life and in my little region where I live, an airplane went down into our town. My wife's computer blew up. There was a whole bunch of stuff that, kind of apocalyptic just in our personal lives yesterday. But, other people were taking advantage of it. Greg on X, formerly Twitter, took advantage of it. He posted at 9 a.m. yesterday. Today is the Rapture, which I think means we're all gonna die. So I just want to say thank you guys for everything, and I will miss you all. Love, Greg. So people were leaning in, Basil. It's just content. It's just content,
And for those who might not know, I mean, Greg is sort of an institution on X, a sort of a satirical troll-like figure. And if he, is posting about the Rapture, then it must be like important enough to enough people to even troll about, which really caught me by surprise. Yeah, well, I don't think too many, again, we're at this point in our career and in the show, Gonz, I would say the strong majority of people who tune in are people who have been with us for over a decade. And, we've been through a lot of raptures together. So, like I said, it's kind of went in one end out the other. But I think it's interesting in the sense that it's kind of part of a new Christian's journey to encounter some very strong, signs and whatever, and or someone teaching and getting into eschatology and something, there's always a next rapture for a new Christian to kind of, you know, experience the joys. Yes, experience the joys of getting into eschatology and digging deep and watching current events, all leading up to this, this next rapture. And so far, not so many have come true. However, don't get me wrong, I don't want to come off sounding too sort of pessimistic about this experience. I think it's actually a part of every new Christian's journey.
I think so too. Yeah.
In the first 5 years of becoming a Christian, after you have a miraculous change in your life and you devote yourself to discipleship and you start being able to even navigate the Bible and you can talk and, with other Christians, and that newness and excitement is going, then you kind of move on to this next phase, which starts almost always ends up kind of getting into eschatology and biblical prophecy. And there's always somebody, pointing out the next rapture, in the next 5 years or so.
Right.
So it gives you something to look forward to. So I hope that the one criticism that we've made in the past about date setting and rapture watching is that it has the potential to like really work somebody up, get them very locked in. Who knows, maybe they sell all their belongings and they, wait for the rapture, and rapture day comes and goes and they're not raptured. And then that can kind of potentially cause somebody to fall into some sort of unhealthy response to Christianity after that. There's always that.
There's a phrase called rapture anxiety that allegedly is a topic that's being studied. But I do think that culturally it's interesting to see this, because a lot of the pre-trib rapture, of course, the rapture debate is sort of an in-house church debate. When is the rapture? What's the timing? Is it before the Antichrist? Is it after the Antichrist? Is it somewhere in between? And, I've done all those studies and been part of the discussions and making videos about it and whatnot. And part of the thing that's interesting now is that a lot of the pre-trib rapture doctrine was tied to a geopolitical support of the modern nation state Israel, traditionally, at least, in the last 100 years or so. And so for that ideology or the view, the eschatology being presented now in this time where geopolitically the young people are not necessarily in favor of modern nation state Israel, it's almost like the boomers are the only ones holding on to that view. It's almost like a commentary on the youth culture and how they feel about all this. And you're right, maybe many of them are new to Christianity, wherever they might be on their journey with it. And it's an opportunity to either, really lean in and be like, oh man, it's really going to happen, and then be disappointed when it doesn't. Or the other side of it, which is like, hey, we're approaching this a little bit more cautiously. And the scriptures say no one knows the day or hour, so it is a litmus test on the culture, where they're at in their Christianity or their knowledge of the Bible and eschatology and stuff. So I think it's an interesting discussion. But yeah, again, to see Greg lean into it.
Reaction is to say, oh, I really kind of got caught up in that. Let's go back and look and dig deeper, and hopefully it brings you closer to Christ. That's the hope. It's interesting. I was just last night, and this happens. People have been around the show for long enough. They know, probably about every 6 months. And indeed, anybody who is a podcaster or anybody who is kind of does stuff like this, the disease, and the disease is that every 6 months you come up with a new podcast idea that you want to do and think is going to change the world. I, of course, I'm just about a world record holder for the amount of podcasts started and ended. but I did get this I don't know, not this like brilliant idea, but what sort of occurred to me is we are in this very interesting time where there's a lot more Christians. There's a lot of Christians sort of being activated. Maybe they're sort of culturally Christian, or their family was Christian, but they're finding themselves back in it. Of course, Charlie Kirk has a lot to do with this, as well as just a bunch of cultural things. I thought it'd be interesting to do a podcast where I just sit and chat with like brand new Christians, like maybe hear hear their testimony, see how that happened. But again, I've said it before, so sorry if I'm saying it for somebody again, but being born to pastors like myself, and I never really had like a real cool falling away story. Like there's some pastors' kids, that they're born into Christianity, but then they get into drugs or become a warlord or like they have some cool story. I never really got like that kind of cool story. So I have I would call it a fascination, but that maybe even makes it, a little bit weird. It's like it's some sort of science. I just have an interest in how exactly does someone actually come to Jesus at all? It boggles my mind. I mean, it's the most miraculous thing to me, looking around, seeing society and being like, there's so many other things that people can like turn to. Now, of course, I know the answer is that God draws us unto himself. Okay. Our faith is not doesn't come from us. Our faith comes from God. And so if you find yourself accepting Jesus, that's because Jesus did it. You didn't do it. And what a wonderful tale that is. But I think there's a lot of potential out there, Gons, to sit and talk to new Christians. And
I think that's a great idea.
The hope would be that, maybe there's some people interested in Christianity who haven't taken the leap or interested in Jesus, but can't really find, the type of conversation. Maybe they have questions, or maybe, hearing other people's stories of finally giving their life to Christ, might have some sort of eternal benefit for somebody. So I'm going to put that on.
Put it on the Clubhouse might be a good way for that to facilitate it as well, because it's just a Clubhouse. It is
well, that's the thing.
And I will, just to piggyback on that a little bit, I do have a video that I'm working on for the Face Like the Sun channel. Hopefully it'll publish on Friday or something, but it's just about AI and how we use AI, how we're sort of leaning into some of the benefits of AI, but also I think it's important for us to talk about how we're using AI because of who we are and what we've talked about with AI prior to an actual product being out there. And I was pointing out specifically an article that we didn't get to on News Talk, which was about how AI, there's, the Silicon Valley is trying to create God with AI, but then all these Christian companies are busting out these AI apps that are meant to be, their bridge to find God. And a lot of their statistics that they're saying is, hey, young people are all discovering God through these apps. And is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And on the positive side, I cite Mark 9, verse 38 through 40. It's the part where John goes up to Jesus and say, hey, there's these other people casting out demons in your name. They're not with us. Should we stop them? And Jesus says, no. If no one who does a mighty work in my name will be able able soon afterward to speak evil of me, for the one who is not against us is for us. And so having that approach, even if you're not in agreement with the vehicle, I think is an important way to look at it, and that nuanced view of how to handle all this, because it's so easy nowadays, especially, to be like, oh, you're using AI, you're evil, you're dabbling in the beast system, and and it's that same sort of argument as when barcodes came out. And not that barcodes aren't leading to the mark of the beast eventually, but clearly barcodes was not the mark of the beast as prophesied, or at least it has not manifested itself to be as such yet. Yeah, like I said, the road to a mark of the beast situation. But in the meantime, what are we supposed to, unless you want to really unplug, and if that's your calling, that's your calling. But I feel that you're being a little bit, in the flesh if you're just going out and hiding somewhere. You're not actually trying to proclaim the gospel and reach out and stuff like that. So anyway, yeah, I think there's a lot to be said here. Huh?
Speaking of unplugging, Gons.
Oh, unplugging. Yeah.
There was a couple of little mishaps.
Yes.
Flew all the way over, or maybe this was in New York. I actually don't know exactly where this was. The UN exists in many places. Probably was in New York.
I think it's in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to speak to the UN. The UN had a gathering, and there were some very interesting things that happened, and thought we'd take a look. First of all, there was a moment, and we have this little video here. You can see it. Trump's walking into the building. He's coming up. You can go ahead and press play on that. There we go. He's walking up. Everything looks very safe. Lots of media. There's a golden escalator. Melania takes a step on. Trump takes a step on. And the escalator freezes. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, no. Oh, he's
And
actually
then
got to walk up the escalator.
Melania, in all of her genius, uses the stairs. When escalator break,
I was
use
going to
the
say,
stairs.
did she actually move over to the stairs, or did she just start walking up
No,
the
she's just
escalator?
walking up the escalator.
Yeah,
That's
okay, yeah, there you go. That's
a smart person. Escalator break becomes stairs, and Trump follows up. And then there was another issue with his teleprompter. There was some sort of Antifa tech crew working at the UN that day.
Antifa tech crews.
Yeah.
Crazy. This clip is 33 seconds, by the way.
That's what I'm saying. Here's the 33-second clip about the teleprompter.
Very much appreciated. And I don't mind making this speech without a teleprompter because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you nevertheless. And that way you speak more from the heart. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
Oh, I just got some flashbacks, Basil. From being a tech.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, imagine being the tech guy at this UN event, and he's a big Trump supporter, and he's back there, and something just goes wrong. The little gremlins in the the board and stuff, and all of a sudden you're Antifa.
Well,
you're considered Antifa. You're considered public enemy number one.
Would not be surprised if the tech team, the blue-haired tech team at the UN building, had some tricks up their sleeve. But I mean, that is a pretty concerning thing. Escalator stops. That's what is it called? It's called freezing the target or something, stopping the target. But luckily, they were smart enough to just keep walking. Here's a little clip. This is UN. So this was tough. Okay, he was supposed to only speak for 15 minutes, but the teleprompter wasn't working, and so he ended up speaking for like a full hour. So if there was some sort of Antifa operation to silence him by turning off the teleprompter, it kind of backfired, and he just went full Trump meandering for an hour here. And
15 minutes to an hour. That's fantastic.
Yeah, in fact, eventually the teleprompter actually turned on, like pretty early on.
Like, okay, we get it. You win.
Like, okay, put the teleprompter on, keep him on track. And he's just like, no, I don't think I will use it anymore. I think I'll just do whatever I want. So here's just a little compilation that's been going around here.
Let me make sure we're properly in the segment here.
Okay.
We will launch a new age.
There we go.
No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months. It's never happened before. There's never been anything like that. I'm very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations: a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now. It just went on. Thank you. I think I should just do it the other way. It's easier. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, now here's a few other little clips. Again, people were like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much good stuff in here. How can you possibly clip all the good things out?" I mean, he did a good job of basically saying everything that one would want Trump to say to the UN. I found this compilation. It's kind of fun because it's meant to make fun of Trump. This was like an anti-Trump compilation of all the bad things he said to the UN. Look how stupid he is. And I think when you watch it, we may have whoa,
Oh.
maybe did you hear that?
I did. Yeah. Who's at the door? Is that the FBI?
Hopefully not. It sounds like a cat made a totally destructive choice, and I'll need to deal with that later. Anyways, here's the anti-Trump series of clips from the Theo News.
The teleprompter is not working, and whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Everyone says that I should get the Nobel Peace Prize for each one of these achievements. The number one political issue of our time, the crisis of uncontrolled migration. It's uncontrolled. Your countries are being ruined. You have to end it now, Sid, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor. And it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law. We're getting rid of the falsely named renewables. By the way, they're a joke. They don't work. If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail. And I'm really good at predicting things, you know. They actually said during the campaign, they had a hat, the best-selling hat. Trump was right about everything. And I don't say that in a braggadocious way, but it's true. I've been right about everything. In the United States, we have still radicalized environmentalists, and they want the factories to stop. Everything should stop. No more cows. We don't want cows anymore. I guess they want to kill all the cows. We have a border, strong, and we have a shape, and that shape doesn't just go straight up. That shape is amorphous when it comes to the atmosphere. But the problem is that other countries, like China, which has air that's a little bit rough, it blows. And no matter what you're doing down here, the air up here tends to get very dirty because it comes in from other countries where their air isn't so clean. Let us defend free speech and free expression. Let us protect religious liberty, including for the most persecuted religion on the planet today. It's called Christianity.
Okay. Well, I don't know if the slam really worked.
I know.
I think the music was probably the most, I don't know, even then.
The music is the cue, you know, that this is to make fun of Trump. So let's see all the crazy things that he says. And I'm like going through it like, I don't know, man. I mean, I can't really disagree with anything he says. He's you know, saying a few of these things in his own special Trumpy way. But, you know, that's what happens. You take out his teleprompter, you're going to get the Trump you wish you didn't get. So, you know, even as they try to slam Trump, again, everything I heard in there, I can't disagree with any of it.
Well, here's the thing that underneath all of this that I find interesting is that, of course, Trump is going into the UN and slamming the UN. But if you look at the geopolitical situation right now, the UN basically declared, we talked about this last episode, the UN, or was it the EU? Maybe it was the EU specifically, but, you know, they declared Israel or Palestine as a separate state. And I'm sure the UN and the EU, they're tied together in a sense.
The UK, Australia, and
right. The Five Eyes. Yeah, and the UN have been outspoken about Israel committing genocide and stuff. So for Trump to be, and that's what's fascinating to me, is that it used to be, hey, anti-New World Order. That was the thing. And part of that was, hey, we're anti-UN. As a conspiracy theory, truth-seeking community, we are anti-UN. But now Trump and conservatives for the most part are anti-UN still, but in doing so, they are kind of de facto pro-Israel in that sense because of the conflict. So I just find it very interesting that that conversation is still lurking underneath the surface when it comes to all this, and there's a level of psyop going on here.
Well, you
that,
gotta
it's
again,
always
yeah,
typical.
you're right. That's kind of part of the complex nature of the factions, because nobody loves Trump slamming the UN right to their faces more than Bibi Netanyahu. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. He's eating his popcorn and very excited because I bet you Bibi is ready to get baptized after this. Like, because Trump's
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
it's like crazy
Christianity being the
liberal.
most persecuted religion. Is Bibi's probably sitting there going, I thought it was the Jews. And then if it's not the Jews, then, I'll be Christian. And then the prophecy of that one lady from last episode comes true. Bibi's
Yeah.
baptized and Israel is a Christian nationalist nation all of a sudden. So anyway, yeah, interesting. And
that
yeah,
was-
too bad for Theo. Nice try for Theo Media here, but I don't think it really did what they were hoping for it to do.
That's right. Okay, that was yesterday. We woke up this morning to more breaking news, Gonzo.
Yes. Should we do the breaking news jingle just to do it?
Yeah,
Here we go. Breaking. According to theguardian.com, Texas ICE facility shooting, 2 dead and 1 injured, and anti-ICE shell casings found. What this bullet message thing happening right now? That is,
we'll get into the bullet.
it's the trend right now. You can't do a shooting without first letting your I don't know, grievances known on the bullet. You gotta write it or engrave it on the bullet. It says here 2 detainees have been killed and another was injured in a shooting at a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement field office in Dallas on Wednesday morning, officials said. Authorities have also confirmed that the shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And NBC News, citing multiple senior law enforcement officials briefed on the investigation, reported that the suspect had been identified as 29-year-old Joshua John. Josh John. Huh. Okay. John. Huh. Interesting. The Dallas police.
JAHN for those who are just listening and wondering why Gons is really milking the last name. It's
John.
JAHN.
John. That's a weird John. The Dallas Police Department said that officers responded to a call at approximately 6:40 a.m. on Wednesday. Quote, the preliminary investigation determined that a suspect opened fire at a government building from an adjacent building, also another rooftop shooting. The police said in a statement, quote, 2 people were transported to the hospital with gunshot wounds. 1 victim died at the scene. The suspect is deceased. In a later statement, the Department of Homeland Security, the DHS, said that 2 of the victims are now deceased and the other is in critical condition. The shooter fired indiscriminately at the ICE building, including the van in the Sally Port where the victims were shot. 3 detainees were shot, they said. So you're probably not going to get a lot of sympathy from the conservatives here in terms of the situation with detainees getting shot, but
not necessarily because of the detainees, but because of the ideology that led to this once again here.
Right.
At a news conference on Wednesday morning, Joe Rothrock, the head of the FBI field office in Dallas, said that, quote, rounds were found near the suspected shooter, contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature. Now, does it show the picture for you right there?
I'm not seeing any pictures.
Kind of weird. So after that sentence, there is a place for a picture, like a gray box for me, where a picture should be, but there's no picture in there. We'll get to the picture in a moment. One of the unspent shell casings recovered was engraved with the phrase anti-ICE, according to a post from the FBI director, Kash Patel. So I love these 2 quotes next to each other. Rounds were found near the suspected shooter, contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature. They are anti-ICE in nature because it says anti-ICE. Authorities said that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. They say they are not releasing the identities of any of the victims at this time, but confirmed that no members of law enforcement were injured during the attack. And this becomes an important part of the conversation here. At the news conference on Wednesday morning, the Republican Senator Ted Cruz, who represents Texas, said that, quote, politically motivated violence is wrong. Good one, Ted Cruz. Adding that, quote, this is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or Customs and Border Protection. Parkland Hospital in Dallas confirmed to the Associated Press that it had received 2 patients from the incident. Okay, thank you. Earlier on Wednesday, Kristi Noem, the DHS secretary, confirmed in a statement that the suspected shooter died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound and said the details about the incident were, quote, still emerging, but confirmed that there were multiple injuries and fatalities at the ICE field office. Quote, while we don't know the motive yet, we know that our ICE law enforcement is facing unprecedented violence against them, Noem said. It must stop. Law enforcement officials told CNN that at least 2 of the victims were ICE detainees. Todd Lyons, the acting ICE director, told the network that the scene is secure and said 3 people were shot and taken out to the hospital. How many times can they say the same detail in one article? An ICE spokesperson has also told NBC News that all 3 people shot were detainees at the facility. Dan Bongino, the deputy director of the FBI, said that the agency is fully engaged in conjunction with our state and federal law enforcement partners at the crime scene in Dallas. J.D. Vance called the shooting and, quote, obsessive attack on law enforcement that must stop. Though, as noted above, no ICE agents were injured. Quote, I'm praying for everyone hurt in this attack and their families, said the vice president, who wrote on X. Vance alleged the suspect was a left-wing extremist, which has not been corroborated by law enforcement. A motive is still unknown as of Wednesday afternoon.
Other than what's written on the alleged bullets.
Unknown, Gons.
Or
Quote,
alleged rounds.
there's some evidence that we have that's not yet public, but we know this person was politically motivated, Vance said, without providing or describing the evidence. Quote, they were politically motivated to go after law enforcement. John Cornyn, another Republican senator who represents Texas, called the shooting horrific. Quote, while law enforcement investigates, I'm keeping everyone impacted in my prayers, he said. My staff have been in touch with federal and local officials in Dallas, and we'll make sure all resources are brought to bear in the investigation. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said in a statement that Texas fully supports ICE. Quote, this assassination will not slow our arrest, detention, and deportation of illegal immigrants, he said. Quote, we will work with ICE and the Dallas Police Department to get to the bottom of this assassin's motive. It's interesting using the phrase assassin so early. The, something like this, you'd say suspect, shooter, insane person. But this,
yeah, there might be some different things going on to try to not cover up, but flood the SEO.
I think because of Charlie Kirk, that's
right.
All of these things that were triggered more word assassin.
Certain words, yeah.
During the news conference on Wednesday, Eric Johnson, the mayor of Dallas, urged residents to be patient, remain calm, and let our law enforcement partners and police department do their job. This is, like was mentioned in the article, the 3rd attack on ICE in the past couple of months, I think. One of the other attacks was at this same facility. There was like a bomb threat at this same facility. And then there was the other ambush on ICE guys, I think just in the next town over or something. So it's a very active place for attacks on ICE specifically. This Joshua John fella, people were digging into, his, of course, his social media, his family's social media. His mother is very active, anti-ICE, anti-Republican type of person. So, there's a lot of this kind of stuff. One of the details was that he only ended up hitting detainees, meaning illegal immigrants. So this, of course, is a detail that everybody trying to defend the left is latching onto, saying he wasn't targeting ICE. He was a crazy right-wing extremist who was targeting detained deportees who were in the act of being deported. Okay. Sure. It seems like if there was so
Maybe they just really don't like the cold.
yes, very good. Very good. Very good, Gons, father of the show, father of 3 at this point. So where was I? Oh, but
Kash Patel.
you get to the details of what happened, at least as they are described by law enforcement, is that the shooter was firing sort of indiscriminately at the building and at a van that was parked outside or in the Sally port. And the van is where the victims existed. And the fella, as far as the evidence that we've been given, again, didn't necessarily have any targets, just kind of shooting at the building, shooting at the van. You know, once the first round goes off, any law enforcement person who's not chained at the wrists and at the ankles and not occupying a locked transfer van is going to take cover and not get shot. Unfortunately, when the shooter shot into the van, that is where detainees were located, as far as I can get from the reporting, and they were unable to avoid the fire. Now, let's jump over to Kash Patel, because
FBI!
A lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax. I mean, it's a money-making industry, okay?
Unindicted co-conspirators.
Now, in classic Kash Patel fashion, which on one hand he promised to do, and a lot of people want the FBI to do this sort of thing, but he's also getting a lot of flack from Congress and, of course, critics of all kind for putting out evidence too early. One example of this was the Charlie Kirk assassin, where he mentioned we have had 2 people in custody and are questioning them. Those 2 people ended up not being the shooter. And so, you know, don't tell us things if they're not true. Whereas his, you know, I guess commitment, and he mentions it, I think, in this tweet, is to try to be as transparent as possible, whatever. So here's FBI Director Kash Patel. This morning, just before 7 a.m. local time, an individual fired multiple rounds at a Dallas, Texas ICE facility, killing 1, wounding several others, before taking his own life. FBI, DHS, ATF are on the ground with Dallas PD and state authorities. While the investigation is ongoing, an initial review of the evidence shows an ideological motive behind this attack. See photo below. One of the unspent shell casings recovered was engraved with the phrase anti-ICE. More updates will be forthcoming. These despicable political motivated attacks against law enforcement are not a one-off. We are only miles from Prairie Land, Texas, where just 2 months ago an individual ambushed a separate ICE facility targeting their officers. It has to end, and the FBI and our partners will lead these investigative efforts to see to it that those who target our law enforcement are pursued and brought to the fullest extent of justice. Thankfully, no law enforcement personnel were injured. Please pray for the injured and the deceased. And the photo included on this post is an old style clip with 5 rounds, 5 unspent rounds, and one of the casings has what looks like blue pen, but I don't know, maybe it's
Sharpie.
It almost looks like a blue ballpoint pen. I don't know. Simply with the phrase anti-ICE. It's kind of weird. The rest of the 4 cartridges are not engraved. So, you know, you're kind of okay.
What's the round? This looks like a 50 caliber or something.
Yeah.
I don't know bullets or guns really. I have no idea, but
there's a lot of talk about this. Okay, so it's a little hard to tell officially just from looking at this. A lot of people right off the bat said that's 308, which it could be. 308 is sort of another name or a different version of a 7.62 caliber. A lot of people are saying it's 7.62 5.4, I think is 5.4R. Anyways, it's smaller than the rounds used by Charlie Kirk. But the thing to notice, this is actually, and this is kind of a gun person thing. What you're looking at here is a clip.
Right.
If
It's
you
not
want to
just
make
bullets on the ground, right? It's a clip.
yeah, if you want to make a gun person cringe, you call a magazine a clip. A magazine's different from a clip, is different from a shell, which is different from a cartridge. These different.
Right. Yeah.
But this clip is a pretty old style. They don't really do this anymore. It's a bit of a hint that the weapon is another old weapon. We're talking somewhere between 1900 and like World War II is kind of when this was the style. Not that, no weapon has ever been made with a clip again, but it's just kind of old technology. So we have this theme going on, both with Charlie Kirk's assassin, who had grandpa's old 30-06, and this guy who seems to have again an old like World War II weapon. And it was noticed by some people on Twitter, like, the joke is, it used to be that shooters had tricked out AR-15s with scopes, and they had all this cool gun gear. And ever since USAID was defunded, now all these shooters have old grandpa guns from World War II. Just noticing this sort of thing.
Just as a thing, I just did a search, Basil. Take a look at the screen. So we have the bullets that Kash Patel shared, right? It's got the 5 bullets on the clip. I just found this from Alamy, and this is a 303 bullet clip, and it's exactly the same looking bullets. I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it looks pretty similar to me. And it's got the 5 on the clip there. So I wonder if this is
it's fairly common. 4 old guns is a fairly common thing. I see some people taking some stabs at what size 5.56. I think they're too big to be 5.56. They look too small to be 30-06. I think it's something in the 7.62 range. There's a few different versions of 7.62, but anyways, especially if we're looking at the time period of World War II or earlier, there's a lot of talk about like M1 Garand or something like this. But the fact of the matter is, again, another old
gun, right?
World War II style weapon that this kid had. Which is just kind of breaks from the trend that we've seen with previous shootings, ones that would be labeled by the mainstream as sort of right wing. So there's kind of this pattern starting to emerge of like left wing shooters like stealing guns from their grandpa or something. If you try to look at like this meta narrative, however. We have the bullets. One of the bullets says anti-ice. Again, there's certainly some valid criticism of the FBI or Kash Patel by putting out this kind of evidence. It's weird that it's just kind of one bullet. We got with the Charlie Kirk shooter, there were multiple bullets, again, in the clip. That had various different phrases, specifically sort of Antifa phrases, Bella Ciao, trans meme phrases, things like this. And this particular one, the guy just wrote on one of the 5 bullets, which is, I don't know, it just kind of is different, kind of breaks from the pattern, and is kind of strange. We've of course followed the 6-week cycle for many, many years. And it's good to remember, okay, the FBI is still the FBI. And especially for people who are more conservative leaning, it's easy to take every piece of evidence that is released by, say, a Biden FBI and tear it apart and critique it and, whatever. But then you just can't not notice kind of weird little details. Anti-ice is like, not like I said,
it's too specific. It's too perfect. It's like the keyword that everyone would be looking for.
It's like a Google search.
It's search engine optimized label for the bullet. It's
Yeah,
a little
they
convenient.
couldn't think of like, something cleverer to say. And not only was it, anti-ice being just like a AI generated, or whatever, just like here, make it say something anti-ice. Okay, anti-ice.
That the more I look at it, the more it looks like a Sharpie. It's kind of hard to tell, but
Yeah, maybe it's kind of thin though. Like it's got thin, like it's kind of
Sharpie.
scratched, scribbled on there. A Sharpie.
Right.
I mean, who knows? It might be Sharpie. I have no reason to argue if whether it is or isn't Sharpie. But it's just the fact that it's like there's no. It's kind of weird to say, but there's no culture. Like there's no internet culture references. There's no, like clever disses on ice. There's no ice this or like get iced or free Palestine.
Get iced. Get iced.
Ice, de-icer or something. Like
There's
a lot of
gotta catch them all. There's a Pokemon reference.
Yeah, we'll get there. But of course, this is coming right at a time to reignite all the mainstream media attempts to find a way to blame this on the right. And this is an absolute genius on MSNBC who really cracks the code here, Gons.
Inspired? Are you worried about copycats?
Yes. I don't know if the rooftop trend is going to be a thing. I mean, it could just be coincidental that the best vantage point just happened to be elevated positions in this case. But, people emulating this kind of attack is certainly a concern. The irony with the writing, the first time we really saw that was Brenton Tarrant in the Christchurch shooting in a mosque in New Zealand. And he was a fierce, white supremacist and neo-Nazi, and wrote all over his weapon and his rounds, very hateful information. So to see this coming from, potentially the other side of the political spectrum.
You see, they show on the video at this point of this man just sort of meandering, finding a way to tie it to neo-Nazis. Two female, what I'm assuming are FBI agents, DHA agents, I don't know, some sort of law enforcement. And look, girl power, okay? This is great. I'm glad we have competent, strong women in our law enforcement. We need them. They can do things that other agents can't do. But it's showing two women up on the roof, what's allegedly the position of the shooter. And they kind of they're acting like they got teleported up there without their knowledge. And they're kind of like trying to figure out, how did we get here? How do we get down? Just, I don't know, very unsure or unstable body language. It's just worth noticing. A weird choice for MSNBC here.
Is a little strange because it is not something, if you are trying to, carry out some kind of message countering, more extreme right-wing stuff. I don't know why you would, use a tactic that a famous white supremacist who has been revered and copycatted over the years by other white supremacists, why you would do that. But it does appear that people are moving in that direction because they want people to know what they're doing and why they're doing it. Again, terrorism is theater. They want people to understand their message and why they're doing this and why, in some cases it's a narrow act of violence. And it's not supposed to be a mass murder, although it looks like it's moving a little more in that direction.
Terrorism is theater?
An active theater, he says. Now, on one hand, I see what he's saying. Yes, it's meant to send a message. It's meant to be more. It's supposed to be a narrative and a broad narrative, making statements about the current state of the world and how you think it should be. Who should be alive, who shouldn't. But yeah, very interesting phrase there. It's an act of terrorism and meant to be theater. It might be a good ISO to pull off here. But
yeah,
this guy's like meandering, monotone attempt to say, well,
he does stumble through it. There's no confidence in anything he's saying.
and they wrote on the bullets, and actually Nazis write on the bullet. So I don't know if you were a left winger, why you would copy a Nazi and write on a bullet. Making the insinuation again, making the sort of NLP insinuation that even though it was firing at ICE, even though it said anti-ICE, even though his family was very lefty, even though all these things, well, he did a thing that a Nazi do, so maybe he Nazi.
Which is crazy. There's been so many rooftop shootings or different kinds of elevated shooters throughout the decades.
That was the comment she made at the beginning. It kind of cuts in the middle of her question, but her question to this guy was, well, he shot from a rooftop and the other guy shot from a rooftop. So are they copying each other? Is this some sort of what? People have been shooting from rooftops since the dawn of humanity. What are you talking about?
Throw rocks over from on top of hills and mountains and stuff. The high ground. That's been a thing in war ever since we've had war.
Even now, the second leftist attack in as many weeks, they just gotta find a way to blame it on Trump. Just gotta. This left wouldn't be doing it if it weren't for these neo-Nazis.
I think there's also clearly, and I've seen some popular ex people do polls to see, hey, do you trust the FBI? And a majority of the people, like thousands of people, are like, no. And this is like a conservative individual influencer, whatever you want to call it. So I think the FBI, despite the sort of optimism of Bongino and Patel getting in there, clearly it has been a clown show, a circus since they've gotten in, and a lot of the Epstein stuff, and then the fumbling with the Charlie Kirk shooting. And so it continues, and the FBI is not getting the kind of trust from the general public that they'd probably hoped when it comes to, during this change of regime. So I find it interesting, Basil, since we're on the FBI topic here, there is another breaking news today. Breaking. And this comes from, where is this? I don't know, one of these mainstream outlets.
Multiple sources familiar are telling them that former FBI Director James Comey is expected to be indicted within coming days. They say this is a fluid situation, but that is the current expectation, is that an indictment would come out of the Eastern District of Virginia, potentially on allegations of lying to Congress back in 2020 in testimony up on Capitol Hill. Now, you'll remember, Scott, that the Eastern District of Virginia is where President Trump recently forced out a prosecutor who he argued was not moving fast enough to move ahead with charges against some of the people that President Trump views as his political enemies. You saw over the weekend the president posting on social media urging his attorney general, Pam Bondi, to proceed with cases against James Comey and others. The president tweeting over the weekend, or posting over the weekend, I should say, Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story, no talk, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. So the president urging his attorney general to move forward with cases against those folks. Now this new reporting from MSNBC suggesting that Comey, anyway, is expected to be indicted in the coming days, but of course cautioning this is a fluid situation and that could change.
It's fluid, but guess what? Got to bring out the old folk, got to see some justice from the old regime in order to maintain trust, in order to maintain a justification for the funding of groups like the FBI. And so I just wanted to add that, tack that in there while we're talking about the FBI here, because it's breaking news, Basil, breaking news.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that tweet that he read there from Donald Trump, that happened over the weekend, and because of the way it was written, there's a whole hullabaloo about, he didn't mean to actually tweet it, he was trying to DM it, and whatever, yada yada. He accidentally sent it to the public. Look at what a dummy. Anyway, so there you go. These are where the details are here. Again, because you want to think, of course, conservatives were hoping for and voted for a change, not only in personnel in various aspects of government, especially law enforcement, FBI, and keep in mind, it is only recently that the documents about the FBI's targeting of conservatives over the Biden administration, as of a couple days ago, got released. The hope would be that not just the personnel would be updated or switched out for people that you trust, but that the actual organization, the way that it runs, the things they do, would also get some sort of upgrade. But we got to remember, this is kind of how the FBI has worked for many, 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 many years. The finding of lonely, mentally ill or challenged, usually young men on the internet, manipulating them, coordinating them to commit crimes, and then swooping in at the last minute to stop those crimes to justify the continuation of funding and et cetera, et cetera. Now, we do see a little bit of a difference recently, which is we're seeing more disturbed young men taking things into their own hands, of course, mostly with identifiers of left-leaning ideology. But it kind of seems like the same thing, just at a much higher pace. Now, is that the FBI's fault, or is there? Of course, there's a lot of things going on, but we can't stop and we can't stop with our I don't know,
skepticism of the entire operation.
Yeah, the entire operation still is the FBI. But it seems like it's happening at such a fast clip now. Like, you can barely go 10 days digging into one, conspiracy theory laden event in the world until another one pops up.
Well, Kash Patel effectively employed the entire internet last episode to go hunting and figuring out certain things with the Charlie Kirk situation. So, hey, it's either AI or employ, quote unquote, the people to do the hard work of trying to figure things out for the betterment of American society and whatnot. But we'll see. It is the same pattern over and over again, it seems. And I don't think for the majority of people, unless there is a true change. And did we talk about how the FBI should maybe rebrand entirely? Like, I know they've tried to kind of
rebrand it down. That was the thing. The plan was to totally shut it down. And, if we need to, the idea is, do we really need the FBI in its current form? Is there some other way that there could be some federal Bureau of Investigation without turning it into sort of an international, intelligence
intel syndicate? Right. It's like facilitating as much terrorism as it is claiming to stop it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of interesting. There's been a lot of fun for conservatives. The attitude, the propaganda, the content of various law enforcement agencies are very fun, but it makes me wonder, is this one of the psychological ways that there are those on the left being triggered in ways they haven't been triggered before? Here are some pieces of content that have come out of the DHS recently. This is Gotta Catch 'Em All by the Department of Homeland Security.
Yes, at DHS Gov, they got the gray check mark, so it's official government.
State-sponsored propaganda machinery.
And here's the 1-minute video that they published 2 days ago. I wanna be the very best. By the way, we're going to get copyrighted for this, which is whatever. We're getting copyrighted for all kinds of stuff anyway. But
we're not going to be monetized. We're not going to make it.
No. YouTube doesn't let us monetize anything anyway. So yeah, and I don't know how they got away with doing this anyway. I don't know if they got the licensing. No one ever was.
Department of Homeland Security.
Okay, so what you're seeing is, you're hearing the song, obviously, for those of you just listening. But what you're seeing is Ash, the character, like a close up of his face. The actual cartoon character from Pokemon.
So it's
and then a bunch of ICE agents like arresting people and detaining people. No one ever was.
Catch them is my real test. To train them is my cause. I will travel across the land, searching far and wide. Each Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. It's you and me.
Okay, I think that's enough of that. Yeah, I mean, just this sort of magnificently irreverent troll from Department of Homeland Security. I know we have some people who are maybe a little bit older than the Pokemon generation, but I'll tell you, that song for many millennial children has some sort of deep triggering effect, right? And to mix it in with image after image after image, admittedly sort of cool image, like aesthetically.
They're Pokemon cards. They made Pokemon cards out of the illegal immigrants that were detained.
Right. Well, and with very action-packed sort of footage of ICE and police and other federal agents detaining illegal immigrants. You know, you talk about the info war here. This is very fun, and you can almost not believe that the government of the United States was allowed to do this. Of course, we've been following. They have some extremely, let's say, loose guidelines for their social media content team, both at DHS and the White House. Which really does a great job. You know, I could see conservatives love it. I mean, it's a real blast. But you could see some truly sort of twisted lefties, some very invested lefties. This could be some pretty significantly triggering material. I mean, straight up like MK Ultra style, you know, adding this, you know, this very sort of triggering nostalgic song with what, you know, a conservative person watches and sees justice being brought to illegal immigrants. But, you know, someone sufficiently left sees this as like Nazis, you know, Pokemon mixed with Nazi imagery.
There's a couple things that come to mind. One, the sort of trolling aspect of this makes me think that this is the reason why we said it's propaganda is because, you know, part of the harsh reality of this administration with this illegal immigration topic is rounding up the criminals and, you know, ripping families apart and, you know, all those leftist arguments about getting in. It's a very unpleasant thing to do, to disrupt different communities, whether they're legally or illegally, hopefully mostly illegal, and to bring them in and detain them and blah, 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 blah. So it's just kind of a horrific thing in a sense. You know, I know it's justice for Americans and everything else.
In the case that it is families and things like that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Not all of them are. Not all of them are. But yes, they get caught up in the
media does a good job of picking the most gang member looking gang members.
Right. And so it is one of the more not horrific, but just uncomfortable things that this administration is doing. And so what do? You bring up nostalgia, you bring a little humor. And so everyone's kind of laughing and just enjoying themselves and getting amped about it. Right. The second thing that I find curious is that this implies, I don't know if they meant to or not, but it implies that illegal immigrants are akin to Pokemon.
Yeah,
right. Like actual Pokemon, like creatures that are. I didn't really watch a whole lot of Pokemon, but as far as I understand, the Pokemon themselves are fairly neutral. Like they're not like good or bad. It kind of depends on the owner and how they use the Pokemon. Am I wrong about this, or is it
animals? They're animals.
Yeah, they're just like creatures, right? They're
trained to fight, basically.
Trained to fight. So even that aspect of it is kind of like, okay, a little dehumanizing, I suppose, but it does play into what the Republicans and the conservatives think of some of these individuals who are here illegally. I'm not even defending the illegal nature of them being here. It's just the fact that they have to dehumanize them to justify some of the imagery.
And the conservative response to that would be that many of these particular illegal immigrants dehumanize themselves by committing crimes, not just the crime of crossing the border, but gang violence and all cartel activity, drug stuff. Anyways, but that's not the only one. There's another one that included Theo Von here. Now, Theo Von is a podcaster who sort of inexplicably, only to even in his own perception of the world, somehow became incredibly popular. He was in the group of podcasters who, had JD Vance on the show, meet with Trump, part of the 2024 election. And he's, for those who don't know, sort of a mullet-headed kind of Southern comedian guy.
Yeah.
A little bit sort of loosey-goosey when it comes to sort of intellectual rigor, but he's a comedian, so that's the thing. But he showed up in a DHS video as well.
Yeah, and the video has been taken down because...
Oh my God.
Did you not know this?
Well, I just watched it before the show.
Oh, yeah. They took it down because Theo Von, yesterday, after the DHS published this video, the video was Theo Von at the beginning saying something to the effect of like, I heard you got deported. Bye, and then they do this like banger video type thing. Well, Theo Von came out. He said, yo, DHS, I didn't approve to be used in this. I know you know my address, so send a check. And please take this down, and please keep me out of your banger deportation videos. When it comes to immigration, my thoughts and heart are a lot more nuanced than this video allows. Bye, which is that was like the big punchline of the video was bye, saying bye to the illegal immigrants. And you know what? To the DHS's credit, they took down the video. So
yeah,
a win for Theo Von.
Now, I will say it is the internet, so once something's out there,
it's there. It's out there. Yeah.
Taken down. I did link it there for you, so we might as well watch it. I mean, why?
Okay. Let me see here.
We got to get the vibe because part of it is many, especially young people or people who spend time on TikTok or whatever. Again, now this is the function by which the brainwashing on TikTok happens is through these MK Ultra, derivative strategies, including repeated songs, repeated sounds, repeated
soundtracks.
They appear, thousands of times, and they're fun, and people use them for different purposes. But straight from the MK Ultra documents, the repeated use of sounds and images in various forms is part of the programming. So once this audio starts, it will immediately bring to mind a lot of things for people who have been sufficiently sort of exposed to it. But here's the video.
Heard you got deported, dude. Bye.
2 million in 250 days. What was that?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say it starts giving deportation statistics. We can read them just as you play it here. I'll read them. Self-deported, 400,000 deportations. You can just play it. I'll just say it while
They simply stopped coming. They're not coming anymore. We're getting a lot of credit, but they're not coming anymore.
Leave now. Yeah. At the end. What is that song, by the way? I hear it in a whole bunch of videos.
Yeah. This particular song originally was used to create sort of like warm, heartfelt, love your life, achieve your dreams type of content. And it was used that way for many years. And then once the trolls got their hands on it, it started to be used in sort of other ways, like usually with sort of unpopular opinions. In this example, deportation is good. See you later. Sorry, bro. And then all this great information about deportation. It used to be that the content with this music was like, it'll start out with somebody in the beginning, kind of like Theo Von, be like, I just lost my job, but now I know I'm meant to achieve my dreams. It goes on. Like, it'll tell a story about how they got retired, but then started their own business or whatever. I'm kind of just making up an example. But it's very like emotional. It's very like supposed to be uplifting. It's supposed to be, try to give you some good feelings as you're scrolling.
Yeah, the ones I've
through
seen were like
internet, and then
like students in an elementary school giving like the janitor a gift, like all the students giving the janitor a gift, and the janitor
Right.
breaks down crying, stuff like that. Like that's the kind of thing I've seen with this music. But now,
Yeah.
now the DHS is using it for a pro deportation video using the likeness of Theo Von, and he didn't like it. He was not
and
happy
what's
about it.
really interesting, and I see this now, this is kind of let's say bring it around to the theory of everything here,
Mhm.
not just the show fun videos for fun, but so the way that this kind of connects with the whole thing we've been tracking for quite some time now is we're actually watching with with the transition of politics, specifically with young people, because of course it used to be the rule: if you're young, you're Democrat. If you're young, you're left. That's what you are. When you get older, you become conservative, right? And young people are primarily the ones who are subjecting themselves to this constant stream of mind control, constant stream of audio triggers, constant stream of, information overload, putting them in this very sort of mushy kind of pliable mindset that has been very helpful for the establishment to kind of control the flow of culture from kind of the bottom up, for lots of reasons: economic reasons, political reasons, etc. Well, now these triggers have been shown to be so effective, and they're so effective also because you don't have to strap a patient to a chair and pry their eyeballs open and, program them with repetitive stuff in some sort of CIA black site. We are all subjecting ourselves to these social engineering tactics for fun. It's how we fill time. It's how we fill the time from sitting on the toilet to getting up off the toilet. It's how we fill time between phone calls. It's how we fill any silence is now being filled with these sort of highly targeted, very effective strategies for creating a malleable individual. And we're doing it for free, and we're doing it for fun. And now what we see, the reason we see this from the White House, the DHS, we've seen the Trump administration really throw out all convention and just say, hey, we know how to do this. All we got to do is put our message with these sounds, with these memes, because we already have a programmable young population, and we're going to do it. The right conservatives, they have, not been successful for one reason or another in the past. When I was young, it was, Republicans are old and stodgy. They don't know me. They don't understand the young people. And perhaps
they were those neocons. They were old and stodgy.
Yeah, perhaps, and they, when we were young guns, we hadn't lived through 20 years of our lives being constantly subjected to this MK Ultra process on a daily basis on purpose. But now we have kids in their 20s who have now pretty much spent every conscious moment of their lives participating in making themselves a sort of programmable computer. And the administration, from the highest ends of the federal government in the most powerful country that humanity has ever seen, gives this impression that it's sort of stooping down to culture's level, right? That's kind of, even you show this to other people, you go, wow, the White House is really, they're really stooping down to social media. They're really stooping down to memes, Of course, if you're a conservative, you like it, and it's, you're a big fan of it. But if you were to show it to anybody over the age of maybe 45 or 50, the idea that your government would participate in sort of playful types of social engineering is it's almost offensive in a way. But all of this to say, the use of the establishment of all establishments, the federal government of the United States, finally sort of deploying explicitly these very specific, very effective training modules, which are these, meme formats, meme music, things like this. We are literally watching the youth of this country shift towards conservatism in an unimaginable way. We have never, ever in the history of this country watched the younger generations move from the liberal side to the conservative side. And it just so happens to be at the exact moment that the federal government starts deploying these trigger devices in memery, things like this, the already installed software into the young people, but also older people. We're just as at risk of
course,
partaking in this kind of stuff. So, I mean, we're just watching right in front of us, not just the attempt for social engineering, but we're seeing successfully deploying the tech training, the social engineering, and the federal government establishment. And never have I ever seen the results so clearly reflect what we know of, of the conspiracy theory tinfoil hat, aspect of social media. We've never seen it work so quickly, so effectively, insofar that it's absolutely shattered any historical trend in recorded history. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but back to that verse I mentioned earlier. Do you call out what it is for what it is with stuff like this? It's like, okay, it's propaganda. It's also, a clever way to draw attention to what the government is doing, and maybe play into what the conservatives and the young conservatives, how they relate to the government. Very well crafted in that way. And if people are coming to Christ because of it, like if somebody's like, hey, what was and maybe this is why we need to have that testimonial, the Young Christian Testimonial podcast, because we might hear testimonials where they're like, I was on the fence about everything. Charlie Kirk happened, and then I was more, inclined to go to church. But then I saw this DHS video with Theo Vaughn, and I was like, that's it, man. I'm going to church. I'm opening the Bible. So it's like, okay, you can't really get in the way of that.
Maybe. I mean, the other side of that, and I want you to finish. Sorry. The other side of that is that simultaneously, this increase of interest in Jesus could actually be the natural inoculant, like the natural medicine because Jesus is the medicine for the sickness of mind control or social engineering. It's always been that way. But we are in a different time, so who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think it's whatever way to get them in the door. What happens after that is really up to the community, the families, the people around them, and how they build up or perhaps tear down some of the people that decide to seek truth and faith in Christ. But there's a couple scriptures, because I just want to throw in a couple more scriptures here about this, and these are familiar scriptures, but I think we can apply them to these types of situations. 2 Corinthians 11 verse 3, I'm afraid that as the serpent deceived Eve by his cunning, your thoughts will be led astray from a sincere and pure devotion to Christ. And that, man, this hits me really deep, because what I'm seeing a lot of is this sort of mixture of political and spiritual type of movement when it comes to people seeking God. It's like it wasn't just a spiritual journey; it was a political one that really drove them into that universe. So, and we know how, when politics is used, how manipulative that is to a whole society, generations. So, just keeping guard of what you're actually, what is it that you're actually, abiding to, or what is it that you're actually seeking, is important there. And then Galatians 5 verses 7 and 8, you were running so well. Who has obstructed you from obeying the truth? Such persuasion does not come from the one who calls you. And again, persuasion. All these little videos and all these things, they're little persuasion machines to get people to think a certain way or behave a certain way, react a certain way. And it's not always, or it never usually is the case that it's one video that does it. it's over time, right? It takes a while for stuff to
years,
really see. Yeah,
even.
years. So, we can't really say that this one video or that one creator or whatever, but it's sort of the cultural shift, the amalgamation of all of it that tends to be what drives people to do what they do. And so, yeah, I would imagine that it's very akin to the wheat and the tares, that we will see the rise of a lot of people coming to faith, coming to Christ, and finding God in this situation or these times, but also those who say they are, but maybe aren't really, they're just kind of doing it because it's culturally cool, which, that's been kind of, I think we've been through this as a country in the last century. And then I think it resulted in a couple big wars. But that's my caution, because I'm seeing a lot of fairly young influencers that are really buying into some of the more militant responses to some of the stuff. And, again, the last time this happened, it resulted in Vietnam, basically. It was sort of the pinnacle of all that anti-communism talk for 30, 40 years. So if that's the pattern that the trajectory that we're on, it's probably not a great thing. So we gotta do our best to compartmentalize, might be too strong of a word, but at least understand or catalog how we deal with this. If we're talking about the propaganda, let's isolate the propaganda, show the propaganda for what it is, understanding that, hey, this might help somebody who's in a whole different place, a different part of their journey, to get closer to God. And so it's hard, because you don't want to get in the way of that, but also you don't want to enable propaganda, to just prevail. So, it's a tough job, Basil. It's a very nuanced job. And I'm glad Theo Vaughn is thinking nuanced. That's the most startling thing that to me, is that he's out here saying, hey, my heart with this situation is more nuanced. And I actually think a lot more people are in that place of nuance, and they're not necessarily like all in for government or all in for anti-government or whatever. Things are a little more complicated than what is presented to us. Mm-hmm.
I do want to give some credit to everybody on the live stream. It's kind of an unusual day in the chat. There are a number of pretty obvious trolls coming in and trying to like trigger people into like arguing about Trump or Republican versus Democrat or something. And I'm sitting here go by, and it's like a lot of them are very obviously like AI sort of generated little trigger things to try to get people, arguing or whatever, or defending Trump or something, mostly defending Trump, trying to bait you into sort of politically defending Trump. And I'm sitting here going, oh, geez, how are we? Okay. And proud to say, it looks like not a single Canarian is taking the bait. So good job, Canarians.
Canarians underrated when it comes to being informed and standing on some good solid truth and not getting pulled into whatever is waved in front of us. I mean, that's been kind of our thing, right?
That's what we're talking about. It's a defense mechanism. Our hope is that Canarians are able to recognize things like this and not instantly get sort of dragged into whatever sort of internet rage
debate.
slop.
Rage debate.
Just recreationally argue with Christians or whatever. Okay, one more, just an interesting little thing here, Gons. We saw something like this pop up, then we saw another thing pop up, and I just thought we should bring it to the attention of the Canarians, because oftentimes this kind of stuff, if you can spot the trend, spot the pattern, it'll give you a little bit of insight into, I don't know, next time something weird happens. Recently, it popped up. This was tweeted by the New York Post. Trump Epstein best friends forever statue removed from DC's National Mall. And it says here, a garish statue of President Trump and late pedophile Jeffrey Epstein was mysteriously erected on the National Mall on Tuesday and removed by Wednesday morning. And the bronze sculpture stood about 12 feet tall, appeared to show both men in a merry dance, with Trump's left hand gripping Epstein's right. One of the plaques under the figure said, quote, "We celebrate the long-lasting bond between President Donald J. Trump and his closest friend, Jeffrey Epstein, and attribute the shunt to an anonymous group called the Secret Handshake." It's obviously a reference to the alleged birthday letter written by Trump, or rather Donald, signed
Donald.
simply Donald. It says, quote, "We're a very small group of citizens who are using art, irony, and humor to express social commentary and spark political conversation in public spaces," the group told USA Today. The U.S. Park Police hauled the installation away before daybreak Wednesday, telling WUSA 9 that it wasn't in compliance with a permit that initially allowed it to remain through Sunday evening, though the department did not specify the issue. And then it goes into talking about Trump and Epstein. And this reflects a situation. You can see, make note, Guns, kind of scroll through this, make note about where the statue is.
You can see the Capitol building in the background there. That's
yeah. You see it's on the sandy area. There's a cement divider between it and the lawn and things like this. It reminded us of something that just recently popped up, a different statue that was placed in apparently the exact same place. The Trump Bitcoin statue. Now, I don't have an article for this one, but this was a statue that appeared, I think it was last week, right?
Yeah.
Golden statue of Trump, which has been an interesting theme for many years now, and especially, of course, in the Christian community. We bring conversations about the golden calf and crafting idols, and
the golden age. Where's the golden age? I'm waiting for the golden age.
Out of Trump, and the left loves to say that Christians worship Trump. This whole narrative. But in this case, he was standing and holding out just a big Bitcoin, but it's in the exact same place as this other one. Now, apparently, as is revealed in this news thing here, this area, I would guess, seems to be a place that you can get permits to put a statue temporarily. And I had never heard of this before, but it's kind of an interesting aspect of this little piece of lawn. Like, you've got all these different organizations or artists or people just sort of crafting temporary statues to place here. It's very sort of Burning Man-y, where it's just meant to be a not permanent, temporary, but they obviously put a lot of work into these things and whatever. So I thought it'd be interesting to start maybe paying a little bit more attention to the statues that get put there, whether permitted or unpermitted. But these sort of patterns start revealing themselves, even when no sort of human intelligence is putting these patterns into play. But I just thought it'd be interesting, especially considering the importance of statues in the sort of Masonic and occult architecture of Washington, D.C. altogether, and how, it's sort of laid out in this, what's the word, sort of talismanic seal of Solomon, sigil magic sort of architecture of the entire city. I'd be interested. I probably should have done it, but we got this right before the show. Kind of pick out this place on a top-down map of Washington, D.C., like see where it sits in the pentagram structure of the city planning, could have something interesting.
And the Capitol building being where the apotheosis of George Washington, isn't that not in the rotunda there on the ceiling? So yes, this is where men become gods.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
And the layout being the Washington Monument, then the reflecting pool, and then the Capitol building. The Capitol building being the womb of Isis, the Washington Monument being the phallus of Osiris, the space between, putting a statue between those two sort of power centers, could have some sort of, I don't know, some metaphoric or occult significance of impregnating ideas or something or other.
Yeah, some esoteric messaging going on here about Bitcoin. Bitcoin go to moon. It's gonna moon, Basil. It's gonna moon. Golden age is upon us.
Let's
All
go.
right. Well, we identified some things about a year ago. Let me see here. I actually did pull up the episode number. It was episode number 774, Hole in None. We discussed the alleged assassination attempt of Donald Trump, not the one in Pennsylvania, but one in Mar-a-Lago. And we have an update from the individual. His name was Ryan Ruth. And if you recall, we found some footage of Ryan Ruth in I can't remember if it was BBC or it was just some random news reporting years before. Let me see if I can go through the show notes here.
CNN affiliate or something.
Well, yeah, he was, yeah. Time Magazine. Who's Ryan Routh? Wrote a book urging Iran. So there's a bunch of weird stuff about this guy.
He volunteered in Ukraine. He did fundraising for the Ukraine war. He volunteered to fight. He has this weird long history. He appeared on, again, I believe it was a CNN affiliate in Romania for some art project, just a bunch of weird stuff. And remember, he's the fella who was posted up on the golf course with a gun and body armor and some things, was waiting for Donald Trump to pass by on the golf course to assassinate him. But the Secret Service agents saw, in the most cartoonish sort of Wile E. Coyote sort of fashion, saw the barrel of his rifle sticking out of a bush.
Right.
Bugs
Was
Bunny
it a dog
or something?
A dog or something caught it? I forget the details of the
story.
No,
there's two Secret Service agents who saw it.
It wasn't a robot dog? Okay.
No.
So he wrote a book called Ukraine's Unwinnable War, The Fatal Flaw, Democracy, World Abandonment, and the Global Citizen, Taiwan, Afghanistan, North Korea, and the End of Humanity. You can kind of tell where his mind is at. Anyway, update. And actually, that was almost exactly a year ago. It was September of 2024 when all this happened. Update here, and we'll introduce a psyops. Ryan Ruth tried to stab himself with a pen after guilty verdict in Trump assassination attempt trial. And it says here, the trial of Ryan Wesley Ruth came to a dramatic end Tuesday when he started stabbing himself in the neck with a pen after a Florida jury found him guilty of attempting to assassinate Donald Trump last year on a golf course. After just 2.5 hours of deliberations, the panel also found Ruth guilty of assaulting the Secret Service agent who rousted him from his hiding place, and guilty of 3 federal gun charges stemming from the September 15th, 2024 incident. Ruth, who had pleaded not guilty to all the charges, now faces life in prison when he is sentenced. The verdict came not long after Ruth capped his 2-week trial, during which he served as his own attorney. Oh boy. By delivering that's the worst thing. By delivering a brief and disjointed closing argument during which he tried to argue that there was no crime because he never fired a shot at Trump.
Yeah, good luck.
He did not. I mean, man, a chat GPT question would have told him not to go with that one, but it's whatever. But just 12 minutes into his monologue, U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon interrupted Ruth and scolded him for ignoring her order to, quote, stay within the bounds of the case, after he started complaining that he wasn't allowed to put more witnesses on the stand. With the jury out of earshot, Ruth then asked Cannon whether the public defenders who initially represented him, Christy Molitello and Renee Michelle Sivola, could wrap up his closing argument if the judge interrupted him again. Cannon said no. And when the jury returned, Ruth argued that, quote, to merely have a weapon in the presence of another does not mean intent. But after Ruth brought up the January 6th riots on Capitol Hill and began talking about Ukraine, founding father Patrick Henry, and the common man, Cannon put a halt to his argument. In total, Ruth spoke for about 42 minutes. Wow. A 59-year-old Hawaii resident. What is up with Hawaii? What's going on in Hawaii? Resident and former Trump supporter Ruth. Okay. I'm gonna ignore
No.
some of this stuff because it is
Yeah,
CNBC.
it is filled with the yes. We've gone through the Ruth thing. We said
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
mainstream media again did the same thing. Tried to make him into some sort of right wing, Nazi.
Well, because he's white, so he's got to be,
Fighting for Ukraine. He hates
Yeah.
Trump. It's just madness.
Okay, Ruth is charged with attempting to assassinate a major presidential candidate and assaulting a federal officer, plus several firearm violations. The government delivered its closing argument first with prosecutor Christopher Brown telling the court that the suspect had planned to kill Trump, quote, for a long, long time. Quote, it is not every case where the defendant writes his intent down on a piece of paper, Brown said during his closing statement. Brown was referring to note Routh wrote before he was arrested. It was addressed, quote, to the world and stated plainly, this was an assassination attempt of Donald Trump, end quote. Quote, this is not a whodunit, Brown told jurors. Starting with the pre-trial hearing and throughout the trial in federal court here, Ruth was admonished repeatedly by Cannon for disrupting the proceedings and asking witnesses questions that the judge deemed outside the scope of the case or irrelevant. On Monday, Ruth asked his own ballistics expert, Michael McClay, quote, does it take a special kind of person to be able to take another person's life? Cannon called for a break before McClay could answer and later told Ruth the question was, quote, far outside the bounds. Ruth called two character witnesses on the stand who testified that he was not violent and is a, quote, jolly person. After that, Ruth announced, quote, I will not testify. When Cannon asked the accused man if he had enough time to think this momentous decision through, Routh answered, a year. Routh was arrested by Secret Service. He's not a lawyer. He reluctantly agreed to
to the public defender.
To the public defender, yeah. Federal prosecutors called 38 witnesses over a span of 7 days who placed Ruth at the scene and testified that the suspect could have killed Trump had he not been caught. Ruth called 3 witnesses and was done presenting his case before lunchtime Monday. The closing arguments came just 2 days after Trump spoke at a memorial service for the popular but polarizing conservative Charlie Kirk. Cannon was appointed to be the bench by Trump and is the same judge who dismissed the charges against the president after he was accused of mishandling classified documents at his home in Mar-a-Lago. Nothing about how he tried to stab himself with a pen right after it happened. Why would you put this in the headline and not talk about the fact that he tried to stab himself with a pen in the courtroom?
Yeah, that's interesting. They didn't put any of the details, and the details were available. So they read out the guilty thing. He waits a moment, takes a pen, starts stabbing himself in the neck. He gets taken out by, I think he gets up and runs, or he gets grabbed by the marshals or the police officers. They bring him out of the courtroom. They shackle him hands, feet, and waist, and bring him back in so they can finish reading his sentence. He must have. That's a hard thing to do, to try to kill yourself with a pen by stabbing yourself in the neck. This man is obviously bonkers in one way or another. I'm not even saying like certifiably, maybe legally crazy or psychotic or something. But we've known this guy is a total wacko. Even just the fact, just think of how disconnected you have to be from reality to try to even make the case that just because I was hiding in a bush with a gun and body armor and a note,
just because I wrote a manifesto of my plan,
I technically didn't break the law because I never actually shot him. You got to be pretty delusional for that to be sort of a viable thing. While obviously his public defenders, he's like, no, I didn't actually break the law because I didn't shoot. And they're like, Ryan, I'm sorry to tell you this. No, you're in big trouble, mister. Like, we need to really figure this out. No. You're a bad lawyer, public defender. This is a bad idea. I got this. Kind of reminds me, unfortunately, of some of the, what are they? Kind of some of the stories. There are some good stories about sort of sovereign citizen folk who end up successfully like bringing sort of natural law into the courtroom and kind of, find justice. But more often than not, it's somebody who's really confident in some stuff they read online and insists upon being their own lawyer, and it never goes well.
Well, in this case, the point was made because of the note that he wrote that perhaps the pen is mightier than the sword, and maybe he was trying to make that point.
Whoa, you did it.
I did it. I figured it out. I figured out the thing.
out.
Now, there was some footage. We're not going to necessarily play the audio. It's really not that big of a thing, but his daughter, apparently, Ryan Roth's daughter, was walking out of the courtroom. She was storming out. You can see her kind of stomping around, very upset. And people were trying to ask her questions, and she was cursing at them and telling them to stay away and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I mean, it's just a
newsworthy event, but yes, the footage does exist.
A lot of people are making her, making it out to be more than it might. But
so to go through some items so far, we have, of course, the Charlie Kirk shooting. We have the assassination. We have the ICE facility in Texas. At the same time, we also have Ryan Ruth, the attempted Trump assassin. We've got all these stories stacking up, piling up, of examples of left-wing violence. And of course, it's a frustrating thing for everybody I'd say anybody in the world, but especially for just people who kind of actually have a grasp on what's going on in the world. Some people call them like conservatives, whatever, but you don't even have to be conservative. You just have to kind of, be outside of the mind control bubble, understand how the media works and how narratives are being spun to realize, yes, there is lots of left-wing violence, no matter how much MSNBC tries to convince you that there's only left-wing violence because they're copying right-wing violence. Okay, I don't know about that, but sure. But I could not believe my eyes when I saw this. The Atlantic, an outlet we have not brought to the show in a little bit of time, but
you've had a very precarious relationship with the Atlantic.
Yeah, a personal favorite of mine because it is, of course, owned and operated by Steve Jobs' widow. It is not necessarily a news outlet, although they like to, lead people to believe that. But they're more of a sort of culture crafting sort
culture
of
craft. I like that. Culture craft.
Yeah. I see my archive link did not make it into the document, so I'm going to do this real quick. Come on, man.
Are you even woke?
Woke up, man.
Yeah, and the Atlantic really is this sort of bastion of respectable left-wing journalism, I guess. Is that what you call it? Well, whatever they want to call it, but at least a sort of culture influencing. Here we go. And here's the headline: left-wing terrorism is on the rise.
Whoa, Atlantic. Are they turning conservative? What's going on here?
They've been taken over by Nazis, the Atlantic. Left-wing terrorism is on the rise. For the first time in more than 30 years, attacks by the far left outnumber those by the far right. Okay, now let me tell you off the bat, they deploy every rhetorical and statistical trick to try to soften this as much as possible. However, we must recognize that the headline is the headline, the message is the message, but we can kind of see through some of their again, the headline is what it is, but there's some sort of deceptive tactics at work here. But let's see what they have to say. This should be, if your liberal friends or family are worth anything, they are reading the Atlantic, and this is what they are reading. No matter how hard ideologues try to exclusively blame their political foes for acts of political violence, the truth is that violent extremists today emerge from across the political spectrum.
What?
Okay.
No way. No, they're lying.
It's kind of soft there, but okay. We have studied this problem. Oh, thank you.
Good. Thanks,
Atlantic.
Atlantics. Doing
Studied
their
it.
homework.
We have studied this problem and believe that our data
Oh boy.
can help illuminate an issue
Illuminatus.
too often defined by partisan finger pointing.
Oh, they're
Okay.
so above the brow. Atlantic
We-
is so above the right-left paradigm.
We
The,
would
the almighty
never-
Atlantic is going to shed light on this false duality that is the right-left paradigm. I'm looking forward to it. This is great.
We would never be ideological. We would never point fingers here at the Atlantic. As part of a study to be published this week by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, a classic, we compiled and analyzed a data set of 750 attacks and plots in the United States from January 1st, 1994 to July 4, 2025.
Why
Our
those
research,
dates?
well, you'll see. Our research focuses only on incidences of terrorism. So don't worry. All those other left-wing pieces of violence, Black Lives Matter riots, looting, none of that, that's not terrorism, okay? Terrorism, which we define as attack. Again, this is the Atlantic defining it. So they are picking their own data, they are defining their own terms, and they still came out.
With left wing,
which we define as attacks or plots by a non-state actor attempting to achieve a political end and exert a psychological influence on a broad population. Among other details, the dataset includes the types of weapons used, the intended targets, and the number of fatalities, and the ideology of the perpetrators. We
you know what
found-
this before you go on, this does sort of put it takes the focus away from any shadow government or darker group or whatever behind the scenes that could be much more responsible for perhaps influencing these types of individuals to do what they do. It's just they just said it's, we're looking past the right left thing, but then also they're defining it as a right left type of thing. It's
So what we have here is the establishment organizing the data, redefining the terms, and they have to admit what we all know, because we all have eyes, we all have memories, we've all been paying attention for the past 10 years. We all know the truth of this. And yet the mainstream, the establishment, they're starting to come to the end of their rope of their ability to convince people to just not believe what they know. Don't believe your eyes, don't believe your own, what you hear, what you read. Don't believe everything that you see and feel going on around you. They're coming to the end of that ability. They've pushed it too far. I mean, that is one thing that sort of, I don't know. It's sort of the characteristics of our time right now. Becomes more and more pitiful to watch the establishment try to tell you to not believe what you see. For example, the MSNBC guy, which is saying, left wingers only commit violence and write on their bullets because of Nazis. They don't do it. They would never, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Here we go. We found that left-wing terrorism has increased since Donald Trump's rise to political prominence in 2016. Indeed, 2025 marks the first time in more than 30 years that left-wing attacks outnumber those from the far right. Despite its recent increase, however, left-wing terrorism is not nearly as common today as it was in the 60s and early 70s. So this is why they picked the dates, okay? And this is... You see this every time when they try to talk about right-wing terrorism. They started at about 1990. Because if you go back to the 80s, the 70s, and the 60s, the numbers would change immensely. But kudos for them for actually mentioning why they cherry-picked the data that they cherry-picked. Says those years marked the height of groups such as the Weather Underground and the Symbionese Liberation Army, best known for kidnapping the newspaper heiress Patty Hearst. In the 80s and early 90s, left-wing terrorism declined, while jihadist and right-wing terrorist and right-wing terrorism rose. So this has always been an issue with their right-wing terrorism data, is they include jihadist terrorism. They include Islamic terrorism with their right-wing data, particularly in the forms of anti-government and white supremacist violence. Sure. Following that trend, according to our analysis, violence on the left accounted for 4 plots and attacks from 1994 to 2000, compared with 144 on the right. Sure. What difference narrowed the following narrowed the following decade, but the right continued to account for significantly more attacks and killings than did the left. The year 2016 was a turning point for left-wing terrorism. Even as right-wing incidences remained much more common, Trump's political ascent and the expansion of the MAGA movement seemed to have re-energized the left violent extremism, which has accounted for 37 incidences from 2016 to 2024. Sure, I could probably count 37 incidences maybe since 2022, but you're picking your own data, sure. Most of them motivated by either anti-government or partisan sentiment. By July 4th of this year, far-left extremists had already been responsible for 5 terrorist attacks and plots, putting 2025 on pace to be the left's most violent year in more than 3 decades. So that's what this is really the key here. Because if somebody comes to you right now and says, right wing is way more violent than the left, it's obviously untrue. It is obviously not the case right now in the period of time that we are in. And you know when the risk of violence is the most important, the most prescient, maybe the only time that it's important is right now. You can talk about all the violence in the past. You can talk about all the things. Sure, make your case for what things were like 30 years ago, whatever you want. The point is, violence is most important to identify, of course, stop and name and claim and understand right now, because that's when violence actually does things in the moment. So they look around, they say, okay, we're not convincing anybody, guys, that the right's more violent than the left right now. This is getting pretty hard. Okay, we're going to need, okay, so we'll admit that right now, in the past 6 months, that the left has become a bunch of dangerous psychopaths who have cold blood running through their veins, and they want to murder anyone who disagrees with them. But if we put it into this big, long context, not too long, though, don't go back to the 80s, the 60s, and the 70s. Okay, we'll cut it off right about the 90s. That's when we'll do it. That way we can say the right has been violent, but the left. On July 4th, for example, law enforcement officials say that an assailant shot and wounded a police officer who was responding to reports of a disturbance at a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention facility in Texas. Meanwhile, another alleged assailant fired at ICE correctional officers. By the way, this violence against ICE, accounts for a significant portion of left-wing violence this year in America. And you could not help but point out that the shooting at the ICE facility today came just hours after Gavin Newsom went on TV once again and just explicitly told people to push back against ICE, to fight back, etc., etc. And they do, in fact, actually mention in here that political figures are the ones calling for this sort of thing, which I was pretty surprised for them to mention. Now, it says here, in many cases, categorizing the ideology of a perpetrator is difficult, if not impossible. Some extremists pick from a salad bar of ideologies. Yeah, like a human being who has thoughts of their own. As the former FBI director Christopher Wray once said, many of which don't fit the traditional right-left dichotomy. In other instances, I love they brought up Christopher Wray here. If there's any one man responsible for the recategorization of suspects, targets, and the crime statistics of this country, it's Christopher Wray.
He's got books to sell.
Exactly. Such as the 2011 shooting of Democratic Representative Gabby Gifford, a perpetrator's beliefs are so muddled that even calling them political exaggerates their coherence, despite the fact that the target is a political figure. A major shift in politics, however, can cause the losing side to become more combative. And I'll skip the rest of this, but what they're saying is Trump president, left-wing, violent. Obama president, right-wing, violent. Oh, if you're not in charge, then you're just so peaceful. The Biden administration took important steps to counter the rise of far-right extremism. After January 6, 2021, the U.S. government brought charges against more than 1,000 people, disrupting violent right-wing networks such as the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys. You can see that the Jan 6 propaganda is still strong. The administration also made right-wing groups a counter-terrorism priority, taking measures to reduce the presence of extremists in the military. The far-right terrorist death toll fell under Biden compared with the previous 4 years, but lethal attacks persisted. So they're giving Biden credit for a fall in right-wing violence. Sure.
Good. There were other things that fell during Biden's presidency too.
Yeah, lots of things were falling. So it goes into sort of a timeline of that. I don't think we need to necessarily read through their whole timeline. But here is one of their points. Under Trump, right-wing extremists may feel less need to mobilize because they sense that their interests are already being taken care of. But Kirk's death could change this calculus. Conservatives, including members of Congress and online influencers, have used the assassination to support the contention that the left is engaged in war. Trump himself has claimed that a network of political organizations fund and support violence. And must be neutralized. Yeah, you should neutralize the funding of violence. This sort of rhetoric could encourage right-wing vigilantism or presage a government crackdown on left-leaning organizations. You mean like the FBI cracking down on 100 Republican organizations? Which in turn could inflame left-wing extremism, impose a grave threat to free speech. So again, even the left wing's violence is the fault of the right. Exaggerated rhetoric across party lines helps explain why both Republicans and Democrats believe that more than 40% of the other side supports murder if it serves their political interests. This is just not true. The polls that have been done, even the recent ones, show 9% of Republicans say that violence could be justified for political ends. 25% of Democrats say that violence is justified for political ends. Now, the right, we are embarrassed at that 9% number. I don't know a single person, and by right, I just mean like not left person, just conservative person. You don't even have to be a Republican. That's embarrassing to have a 9% of your countrymen agree with political violence. 25%, 1 in 4 Democrats, that is millions and millions of Democrats saying that violence is justified for political ends. 55% of Democrats said that murdering Trump would be justified. 48% of Democrats said killing Elon Musk would be justified. I don't know what numbers they're pulling here. I noticed that they don't actually have a link to any data. Let's see here. What is this one? Supports murder if it serves political interests. In reality, less than 4% of Americans support partisan violence, such as assault or arson, let alone murder. Even that number is too high, of course. Notice how they say 4% of Americans, and they don't split it between left and right, but okay. Actually staunching political violence will require America's leaders to commit to fighting all forms of extremism, not just those associated with their opponents. The Trump administration has prioritized combating the rise of left-wing terrorism, but not right-wing terrorism. Can you believe it? It's crazy.
Oh my gosh,
It remains a concern despite its decline this year. Developing the programs and expertise to suppress blah, blah, blah. Anyways, it ends with, yes, oh, you know what? It's annoying. So let me read this one. Condemning all political violence, especially when it emanates from one's own side or targets one's opponents, is also an important means of breaking the cycle of distrust. Many prominent Democrats have done this since Kirk's shooting. So did many Republicans after the assassination of Hortman and attack on Paul Pelosi in 2022. A leftist attacked Paul Pelosi, we can say that, and it seems to be a cartel hit on Hortman. They just start listing. I've seen this before, and they did it earlier in the article. They'll name a Democrat politician who had violence done upon them, and they don't mention necessarily that it was a Republican that did it, but they just kind of leave it because Hortman, Paul Pelosi, Gibbard, what was her name? Yeah, Gibbard. These are examples of Democrats who have been hit with violence. I don't think any one of those three were done by for political reasons or even by Republicans or whatever. So you can see even in the writing here, they'll mention Democrats who were attacked, but they stop short of actually lying and say that it was political violence from Republicans or whatever. Still, both sides need to improve, as evidenced by some left-wing celebrations of, and here we go, Luigi Mangione, the alleged killer of Thompson, the healthcare executive, and the failure of some conservative leaders to expressly condemn white supremacists, Hortman's assassin, not a Republican, and other violent extremists. It's interesting how they have like a specific example, one specific example of celebrating a killer, Luigi Mangione. They don't mention celebrating Charlie Kirk's killer. They don't mention celebrating Ryan Ruth. They don't mention, there you go. But okay, the Atlantic. Utah Governor Spencer Cox has served as a model in unequivocally denouncing extremists, which makes them outcasts instead of heroes. Cox described Kirk's killings as an attack on all of us, and he offered a simple exhortation that would benefit both sides, particularly in moments like these when violence can spiral. Disagree better. Oh, thank you, Spencer Cox. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Left-wing terrorism is on the rise. You pick the dates, you pick the data, you can say whatever you want in between. But finally, some mainstream confirmation of what we've all known is the case for a very long time.
Man, and even with the admission, it's still such a dance that they're doing. Yeah. It's almost like by the end of the article, I'm like, man, what's the point? There's no point to this.
It's gross. It's like a gross dance that they're doing. But anyways.
It's like they wanted the clicks from the right wing or the conservative side because they're not getting any, I'm sure the Atlantic is not breaking in the cash as they once were. So they got to maybe appeal to some conservatives to get the clicks, so.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Sweet.
Oh, you know what? I'm looking at the time here, Gons. We really
I
pushed
know.
this one to the edge, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Okay. You want to do this last story, or do you want to just run through some producers real quick?
Man, that last story is fun.
We can save the story. Let's save the story. It's a good story. We'll save it.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, maybe
not a time sensitive one.
Oh yeah, it's not time sensitive. Okay, great. All right, let's thank some people. I gotta get out of here.
All right, folks, we're on the value for value model. You'll notice no advertisements, no sponsorships, no platform support, nothing. Nope. We only exist because of you, our dear producers, our dear producers in the value for value model. Very simple. We only exist because people produce. Very short list today. So I think I'll just keep everything short, Gons, just to get you out of here. Executive, thank you to all the monthly producers. Love you.
Yes. Thank you.
Keep doing it. Need more, but thank you for those who are there. Executive producers are those who come in. They support the show for $100 or more for any individual episodes, and so that's why they save the day. And I'm going to start by thanking executive producer. You know it, Sir LX Protocol V2, Baron of the Breen Protocol. Coming in with that sweet $100 and 33 cents.
Man, everyone should be thanking Sir Alex Protocol, Baron of the Breen Protocol.
I think they should. I think they do. So they should throw him a parade. He's on a 427 episode streak and an 81 executive producer streak. We have executive producer Felicia D.
Felicia D. Thank you, Felicia D.
Came in with a nice round number. Thank you, Felicia D. And just so you know, if you come in with a nice round number on the 10 or the 5, that's you telling us you'd prefer if we don't disclose the amount. If you don't mind us disclose the amount, make it a funky number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 33 cents, 77 cents, something like that. Okay, that concludes our list of executive producers. We got 2 producers. I'm going to start. Here's what I'm going to do. We have a birthday boy we're going to thank here in a second. And then I'll thank another producer, and we can just go straight into a knighting.
Ooh, wow, this is exciting. Okay, so we have birthday. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so I want to thank producer Malik. Producer Malik here, yes, comes in, supports the show for a nice round number, and has a note here that says, Friday is my birthday. Prayers for me that I may have my best year yet. Lord knows I need it. Amen.
Amen.
It's my birthday. It's my birthday.
Happy birthday to
Malik. There you go.
Thank you very much, Malik. God bless you. And yes, all the producers out there, we're praying for Malik. Been a long time producer, and we hope you have a good year, buddy. Next up, and lastly, we have producer The American Hobo comes in.
American Hobo. All right.
2332. And the American Hobo's on a 43 episode streak and sends a message. The message says, yes, I have reached knighthood status. Thank you both for what you do, and God bless. My wife and I have been watching since about 2016, Face Like the Sun. We appreciate the work that you guys do for the church and the coming kingdom. We both come from unbelieving families, and the channels and radio shows that you both have ran were really helpful in our awakening. Haha. I hate using those corny words, but it really fits in the situation. I feel blessed to be a contributing factor to the value for value model, and am glad to help produce for as long as I am able. Thank you both, and thank you to the fellow Canarians, and may God bless us all.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I think we should go straight into a knighting here for the American Hobo. I'm just going to make sure that I got all of the important information here. Where is it? There it is. Okay, I got it. Go like this. All right, you got your sword and everything? You getting ready? What do you think?
It's a samurai sword.
Whoa. That was exciting. That was good. Okay, I'll use this one. This is the good one. I'll use the good one for American Hobo. We want to call up the American Hobo. Please step forward to the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames, where we have a seat for you. Thanks to your generous support in the amount of $1,000 or more, we are proud to pronounce you Sir Cullen Anderson, Hobo of the Americas. Please join us at the Canary Cry Roundtable, where we have the belt of truthful truthiness, breastplate of righteousness, custom fit Birkenstocks to carry forth the gospel of peace, the shield of ferocious faith, the helmet of substantiating salvation, the supernatural sword of the spirit, and of course, adorable samurai babies, infinitely cute kitties for cuddling. And if you're hungry, we have Fancy Feast, Wet Food, Carved Cosmo, the Crisp Cow, and of course, fried wormicorns. Welcome to the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames, Sir Cullen Anderson, Hobo of the Americas. God bless you. Thank you, Sir Cullen Anderson, Hobo of the Americas, for all your support. Of course, been producing episode by episode for at least 43 episodes now, but has, of course, been a part of many of our monthly options. And that's how it goes, folks. If you have been producing the show and or would like to produce the show, just know that if you support the show for $1,000 or more, this could be all at once, or it could be over many years. You get your seat here at the round table. You get your knight name, your dame name, your protectorate, whatever you want, and you'll even be on the website. So thank you very much. And of course, these are the people we want to thank for keeping the show going. Pray for them. God bless them. And we'll be happy to see how far that streak goes. Sir Cullen Anderson, Hobo of the Americas. You're the man.
Yep. Congratulations.
Congrats. Oh, I see you have an ostrich GIF going on with a knight on the screen. And that is reminding me of a horrible ostrich story that's going on in Canada. We don't have the time to go through it now, but I'll bring it to the show. As a fellow giant bird farmer, I am extremely invested in the Canadian ostrich farm thing going on.
Situation, sure.
There was a fire this morning. I don't know if it was a good fire or a bad fire. Could be some ostrich Robin Hoods, but we'll have more next time. Okay. For the sake of time, we're not going to go through our under $7.77 producers, but I have you all recorded. People come in for under $7.77, usually to keep a streak going, and your streak is going, dear streakers. We'll thank you on Monday. Appreciate that. And of course, we're going to thank our time stampers. Can't forget about it.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
Jade Bouncerson coming in, doing timestamps for episode 878. Thank you very much, Jade Bouncerson. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Jade Bouncerson, making the world go round. Because remember, folks, you can keep the show going. You can produce the show. You know what? We've been forgetting to play the canarycry.support jingle, because if you have questions, you want to know how to produce the show with your time, your talent, your treasure, go to canarycry.support. That's what you do. And of course, thank you to Jam, who heads up the Telegram. Thank you to Adam42, who heads up the Discord. If you are a Telegram user or a Discord user, you can go to canarycry.party to get the invite links for both of those things. Of course, Joe, thank you for the feedback. Thank you to Clank for clanking. Thank you to Sir Ike for everything you do. And remember, if you are on the T-shirt council or the supply drop, email canarycrysupplydrop@gmail.com with any name changes or size changes for your T-shirt. And of course, go to cagerattlercoffee.com.
Oh, no.
Don't miss out. You got to go to cagerattlercoffee.com. Do it now. Do it forever. I do it every morning. It's great.
Cage Rattler Coffee, where value for value never tasted so good.
That's right. Go to cagerattlercoffee.com. Get your coffee there. It's the best coffee. That's what I've been told, and that's what I personally think as well. I loaded up my espresso machine with Cage Rattler coffee, and I've never been so zippity zap in the morning. It's how everything gets done around here. But the best part is It is value for value. A piece of every bag of coffee, a piece of every sale comes to support the show, but it's also supporting other Canarians. It's supporting the families of other Canarians. This is the parallel economy, folks. Go get it. Get that Nicaraguan blend. Go get that Costa Rica. Go get that Honduras Nephilim Hunter dark roast. Go get your Emu Wrangler medium roast. You will not be sad. In fact, you will be happy. And other than that, share the show, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your friends' family, share it with your family's friends. And don't not share it. Do share it. That's what we're doing now. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, do all the things you got to do. We call it rattling cages. And all you got to do is walk right up to them, grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Guns, any last words?
Did we congratulate SENJESS and COOLRUNNINGSMON for their wedding anniversary, 4th wedding anniversary?
Is that on the Canary Cry calendar?
It's on the Canary Cry calendar.
Okay. Canary Cry calendar says happy anniversary, SENJESS and COOLRUNNINGSMON. Do you want your anniversary on the calendar? Well, you just got to become a Canarian, and make sure to go to canarycrysupplydrop.com to sign up. Get that supply drop. Canary Cry calendar, only available in the 4th quarter of the year for the supply drop. Go now.
That's it.
That's it. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the gate.
Armageddon's on the way. This is the United States of America, for God's sake.
Toilets! Give me a break. Toilets!
Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Bye!
They're going to probably try and rattle her cage a little bit more.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
Canary cried out.